Which one is don't bend and look in between your legs in the market? In this economy? Huh. Every time, one superstition or the other. Chidera wondered stubbornly after hearing the market women's warnings. If stubbornness was a human being, her name would be Chidera. From childhood, that girl had been collecting warnings like souvenirs, only to ignore every single one of them. If you told Chidera not to play under the rain, she'd ask why thunder hadn't killed the rest of the neighborhood kids first. If you warned her not to touch the masquerade costume in her uncle's room, she'd wait until midnight, creeping like a thief, and try it on just to see how it felt. It started as a silly game among market girls and gossiping teenagers. They called it looking through the other side. Some said you'd see the person who wished you harm. Others said you'd see your destiny. But the elders warned, never, ever do it. No one listened. Chidera had always been curious enough to touch fire just to know how it felt. She was beautiful, bold, and the kind of girl whose laughter could fill a whole street. She sold dried fish beside her best friend Alex, who sold palm oil a few stalls away. Every market day, people loved buying from Chidera because she spoke kindly, smiled often, and wrapped goods like she was gifting blessings. But beneath her smile was a restless heart, the kind that always wanted to prove she wasn't afraid of anything. That day was like any other. The sun was heavy and hot, pressing sweat out of every skin. The main market buzzed, sellers shouting, customers haggling, children weaving through stalls with trays of groundnuts. Somewhere, a woman cursed a thief. Somewhere else, a preacher screamed that the world was ending. Chidera was fanning herself with a broken cardboard when 3 girls from the fruit section passed by, giggling loudly. One of them said, "Chidera, you never try 'em before? You too fear. Try what?" She asked, pretending not to care. "The market dare nah. Bend and look between your legs. They said you'll see who's been talking about you behind your back." Chidera rolled her eyes. "And if I see my late grandmother in KO?" The girls laughed. "You go greet her now." But one of them leaned close and whispered, "Last week, Ngozi tried it. She fainted. When she woke, she said she saw a man with stitched lips standing in the middle of the market, staring straight at her." Chidera felt something cold crawl across her spine. She brushed it off and laughed. "A beg, all those things nah myth. Nobody day see anything." The girls laughed again and left. By evening, when the market was quieter and most traders were closing, the thought still burned in her mind. What if it was true? What if someone was really there, watching? The sun had gone down, and the sky hung low with orange and purple. The wind carried the smell of roasted corn, dust, and rain that hadn't fallen yet. The market emptied slowly, just a few traders counting money, folding umbrellas, and stacking baskets. Chidera stood, looked around, and smiled to herself. "Let me just see. Only one look." She stepped to the open space between stalls, placed her feet apart, bent slightly, and looked between her legs. At first, she laughed because all she saw were her toes and the dusty ground. But as she blinked, the color of the world shifted. The market looked darker, like a heavy shadow had fallen. The stalls looked twisted. The people were gone. And then she saw him, a tall figure, standing upside down from her view. Just standing, facing her, his lips stitched shut with black thread, his eyes like burnt charcoal. Chidera gasped and jerked upright so fast, she almost fell backward. Her breath came in short, broken bursts. She looked around. Nothing. The market was normal again. A goat bleated somewhere. Someone was still packing yams. She laughed nervously. "Not my idea play trick-a-bag." But deep down, she knew she had seen something real. Something that didn't belong. She packed her fish, tied her wrapper, and hurried home. That night, she couldn't sleep. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw that stitched face. Each time the wind brushed her window, it felt like someone breathing beside her. Around midnight, she heard her name. Soft. Whispered. From inside her room. "Chidera." Her eyes flew open. Her heart pounded like drums in church. She sat up slowly, her eyes darting around the dark room. The moonlight slipped through the window, painting pale lines on the wall. Everything looked normal. Her mirror, her folded clothes, her Bible by the bed. Then she heard it again. "Chidera." This time, it came from the corner near her mirror. She swallowed hard and whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. She reached for her phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut across the room. Nothing. Just her reflection staring back. But then, her reflection blinked. even though she hadn't. She froze. The reflection smiled. A slow, cracked smile stitched from corner to corner. Her phone dropped. The light flickered across the floor. When she looked up again, there was someone standing behind her in the mirror, tall, dark, and wrong. Chidera blinked once, then twice. The tall figure in the mirror didn't move. He just stood there, still and silent, stitched lips curving upward like someone forcing a smile. She wanted to scream, but no sound came. Her throat locked tight. Her voice was trapped behind fear. She pulled her blanket over her head. It was the oldest protection she knew. Every child believed nothing could touch you under the blanket. She waited. 10 seconds. 30. A full minute. Nothing. Only silence. Then she felt a tap. Soft. Gentle. From the inside of her blanket, right by her ear. Her heart stopped. She threw the blanket away and jumped out of bed, gasping. She didn't wait to check what had touched her. She ran. Her feet slapped the floor as she dashed into her parents' room. "Mommy! Daddy! Wake up!" she shouted. Her mother stirred, confused. "Chidera, what is it?" "There's someone in my room. I saw a man. His mouth was stitched. He's there." Her father sat up, rubbing his eyes. "You mean in our house?" "Yes. I swear. I saw him in the market when I looked between my legs. Now he's here." Her parents exchanged that look parents give when deciding whether to scold or pray. Her mother sighed. "Chidera, how many times did I tell you to stop listening to market gossip? You brought this upon yourself." Her father added, "Go back and pray. If you see him again, tell him to leave. Maybe he'll get tired and go." "Daddy, please, come and see." "Enough, Chidera. Go back to your room." Her voice broke. "But I'm scared. Good night." Tears filled her eyes. She turned slowly and walked back to her room, heart pounding louder with each step. When she entered, everything looked the same. But the air was different, cold and heavy, like rain that refused to fall. She sat on her bed, holding her Bible tight. Her eyes darted from corner to corner, waiting for a sign. Then she heard it. Creak. Someone was walking in the hallway. She froze, listening. Another creak. She rose to her feet, her hand trembling on the doorknob. The hallway was dark, silent, long. She took one careful step, then another. The floor creaked again, but this time behind her. She turned quickly. No one. Then a whisper brushed against her ear. "I see you now." Knees weakened. She ran, bursting into her parents' room again, but the bed was empty. The pillows were untouched. The clothes were gone. Even the smell of their perfume had vanished. It was as if they had never lived there. "Mommy," she cried. "Daddy." Her voice echoed through the house, but no answer came. Then a low, deep voice spoke from behind her. "You opened the veil, Chidera. Now walk in it." She spun around. No one was there. The air turned colder. The bulb above her flickered once, twice, then went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Chidera backed against the wall, her breathing shallow. Her hands trembled as she whispered a prayer. "Our Father, who art in heaven." "Don't bother." The voice came again, right beside her ear. She felt the chill crawl down her spine. She could smell something foul, like burnt hair mixed with wet dust.
She turned slowly toward the sound. Nothing. But on the wall behind her, the shadows began to move, stretching, bending, twisting into shapes that looked like hands. She screamed and ran out of the room, her bare feet slapping the cold tiles. She didn't know where she was running to. She just wanted light. Safety. Anything that wasn't this. When she reached the sitting room, she froze. The house was no longer the same. The photos on the wall were gone. The furniture was covered in cobwebs. The curtains looked burned. She turned toward the clock. It was stuck at 3:33. The second hand ticked back and forth but never moved forward. Her breathing grew faster. "Wake up, Chidera," she whispered to herself. "It's a dream. Wake up." But deep inside, she knew it wasn't. She opened the front door, and the night hit her face. But it wasn't her street outside. It was the main market. Not the one filled with noise and people. This one was quiet, gray, and dead. The stalls were empty. The ground was dry and cracked. And all around her were figures, traders, standing perfectly still. Their skin was pale. Their mouths were stitched. Every single one faced away from her. She wanted to run, but the house behind her was gone. In its place stood an old, broken stall with a cracked mirror nailed to the wood. And in the mirror, she saw herself. Only, she wasn't herself anymore. Her mouth was stitched shut. Her eyes were hollow and black. And standing behind her reflection was the tall man from before, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. Chidera turned sharply. Nothing. But when she looked back, the stitched traders had turned too. They were now facing her. All of them. Their heads tilted to one side. Their stitched mouths stretched wider. And they began to walk toward her. Silent. Slow. Sure. Chidera tried to scream, but her voice was gone. She stumbled backward, tripping over the cracked earth, her tears blurring her sight. Then the voice came again, deep and final. You looked through the veil. Now, you belong to it. The last thing she saw before everything went black was her reflection smiling at her, stitched and still. Morning came. The cock crowed 3 times, but Chidera didn't wake. The sun pushed through her window, warm and innocent, touching everything it met. The neighbors thought it was just another peaceful day in Owerri. But inside the house, the peace was an illusion. When Alex came to the door, calling out for her as usual, no one answered. He knocked again, louder this time. Chidera. It's me, Alex. You never open your stall today. Still silence. He pushed the door open and stepped in. The air was heavy, thick, and strange. The smell wasn't bad, but it carried something dry, like dust mixed with something old. Chidera, he called again, his voice shaking slightly now. The living room looked untouched, but something about it felt wrong. The mirror on the wall was cracked. The clock had stopped. The curtains were still drawn. He moved toward her room slowly. His shoes made no sound. When he reached the doorway, he froze. The bed was neatly made. The Bible lay open on the pillow. Her phone was beside it, screen black. And on the mirror, written faintly in what looked like ash, were the words. Don't bend and look between your legs in the market. Alex stepped closer, heart pounding. He touched the mirror gently. It was cold, colder than glass should ever be. He whispered, Chidera. Then the reflection changed. For a split second, he saw her, standing behind him, her mouth stitched shut, eyes hollow, a single tear sliding down her gray cheek. He turned sharply. No one was there. He ran out of the house, breathless, stumbling into the street. People stared as he collapsed near the gate, gasping for air. That evening, traders whispered again in the main market. They said another girl had gone missing. They said if you walked through the stalls at night, you might hear a soft voice calling your name. They said sometimes, if you were unlucky enough to look between your legs, you'd see her, Chidera, hanging upside down, watching, waiting, warning. But that night, something changed. As the moon hid behind clouds, a heavy wind swept through the market, overturning baskets, lifting wrappers, scattering dried leaves. Then, silence. The next sound anyone heard was a gasp, a soft, living gasp, coming from the street beside Chidera's house. Alex lay there, still trembling, eyes fluttering open. He coughed hard, like a man surfacing from deep water. People rushed to him, calling his name. He blinked, confused, until one word left his lips. Chidera. At that exact moment, miles away, in a small bedroom filled with morning light, Chidera's eyes opened. She sat up slowly, breathing deeply, her heart steady for the first time in what felt like forever. The Bible still lay open beside her, its pages turned by the wind to the verse that read, Even when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Her mother's voice came from outside. Chidera. You're awake. She turned, and tears filled her eyes. Her parents stood at the doorway, alive, real, and radiant. Her mother ran to her, holding her tight, whispering, "My child, we thought we lost you." Chidera held her mother's hands, trembling but calm. "I went far," she said softly. "Too far. But I'm back." Days passed. Life returned to the house, yet something about Chidera had changed. She no longer laughed the same way, no longer argued or ignored warnings. Her eyes now carried an ancient calm, the kind that comes from seeing both the living and the unseen. One morning, as she stood by the window, the sun touched her face. She smiled faintly, her skin glowing like dawn after a long storm. Children passed outside, giggling about the old market legend. "Nothing will happen if we try it," one of them said. Chidera turned slowly, her gaze firm but kind. "Don't," she said, her voice steady. "Don't ever bend and look between your legs in the market. Some things are not meant to be seen by human eyes." The children stopped laughing. Even the wind seemed to listen. From that day, people said the main market became quieter. Fewer dared to test the ancient warning again. And every time the story was told, at night by firesides or whispered during market days, her name carried a strange power. Chidera became a living reminder that curiosity can open doors meant to stay shut, and that mercy can still find those who lose their way. As for Alex, he often visited her family, sitting on the veranda as they shared stories of what they could never fully explain. He still couldn't remember everything that happened that night, but he remembered this: when he collapsed, a warm hand had touched his chest and whispered, "You still have time." No one knew whose voice that was. Maybe the market itself. Maybe something greater. And sometimes, when the evening sun sets over Owerri, and the air smells of pepper and oak, people say the "Why see Chidera walkin'?" G passed the market gate, calm, peaceful. Her wrapper flowing behind her like a quiet flame, reminding everyone that obedience can save, and curiosity can destroy. Because the truth is simple. Psalm. Warnings are not superstition. Hey are protection. So, if you ever find yourself in the main market of Owerri, and the urge comes to test an old saying, remember Chidera's eyes, her courage, her mercy, her warning. And whatever you do, never bend and look between your legs in the market. And when people whispered her story in the evenings, they didn't call her a ghost, they called her the girl who returned with a warning. She had crossed into the forbidden and come back not to scare, but to teach. Sparkle's moral lesson: respect old warnings. Every tradition has roots deeper than we see. Curiosity can be a bridge, but sometimes it leads to the dark, and not everyone returns from it. Respect the warnings of the elders. Every ancient rule carries a truth hidden in mystery. Curiosity is a gift, but when misused, it can lead us to places our souls are not ready for. Sparkle's call to action. So when next you hear an old tale, don't laugh. Don't mock what you don't understand. Because some stories are not just told to entertain, they're told to protect you. And if you ever find yourself in Owerri's main market after sunset, remember Chidera's eyes. Remember her warning. And whatever you do, never bend and look between your legs in the market. If this story touched you, please don't forget to like, comment, and share. Your support keeps these tales alive. And most importantly, make sure your notification bell is always turned on, so you never miss a single haunting, soulful story from Tales by Omoh. Because some tales are not just told, they're felt.